All right, hello, hello, all. We're back. So it's been a bit. How's some Fata Morgana tonight? So I'm solo. But yeah, let's just kind of jump right in. Just a warning, this will probably be a shorter stream, just because it's been a long day, man. So, we have oh shit, we did a lot last time. Okay, so Hotmaid warned us the story was coming to an end, and we saw Jacopo trying to invite Abby to the Pacific Railroad ceremony to make amends. He told her that the phenakistoscope was something he thought too humble for her status, but fell in love with the genuine smile it got from her, and he wants to start over. The door was unlocked, and Abby wasn't in the shed, just the phenakistoscope and an unaltered letter to him saying that she gives up but hopes he keeps all her letters to him. Jacopo realized that the letters were all actually for him, and that Maria was playing him like the cheap kazoo he is. He confronted her as she lounged on a throne to gloat evilly. Yes, and I loved that. I hated how it ended, but I loved that. She admitted that she's hated him ever since they reunited because she envies his fortune while she became a maid and he married someone else. She called out every part of this that's his fault and shot him with the friendship cartridge, but he shot back and then reminisced on their childhood. His father gave him a gun in case Maria did this, since keeping her as a maid was obviously keeping an enemy close. Hot Maid asked what's next now that his quest for wealth and power led to this, and he had a private funeral for Maria before dying alone. When the story ended, Hot Maid was gone and we met the man in the black painting. He doesn't know who he is either, though we think he might be Abby's painter father from the first story. That's my current theory. I don't know that I'll stick with it. I don't know where we're going here. I'm very excited to find out. Inside the painting, we got a key that quote unquote she tossed in there. We brought the key to the bedroom and there was sudden color and a woman's silhouette. The woman spoke to her master, describing him as more playful than the brat she expected, and that they seemed to be a couple, but we couldn't say her name. Then we went to the rose garden where we heard Mel and Nellie laughing but felt someone's loneliness. We looked for Bestia in the cellar and stared at Yukimasa trying to communicate to us. The den smelled like smoke and sounded like capitalists playing billiards, and we messed with their game and heard a shadow telling us to put it back. The mansion entrance was sealed shut, and we heard a voice calling to burn the witch. At the stained glass window, we sat in the pews and almost remembered something, then hit the dusty library where books insisted on falling. I don't think we put them back either. I guess we do have Hot Maid as a maid, but we returned to the fireplace and started falling asleep in a rocking chair, but woke up and returned to the window to call for Hot Maid. She claimed we were the one lost and not her, and she can't be a ghost because she can touch us. This world is constructed from memories of history separate from reality, which is why the window is here but not in the other stories. She also showed unfamiliarity with the key from the painting, then brought us to a staircase for the last story. The top of the observatory tower had a decrepit door screaming to burn the witch, and the story went to 1099 for a witch ritual. That's really hard to say. As Abby fled, Abby fled. Abby prayed to God to show her the way, and then the mansion appeared before her. She struggled to find a way and almost moved the drapes until Michael stopped her. He directed her to the village, but she's escaping persecution. He warned that living with him is dangerous and asked about her sins. Hot Maid cut the story short because she said she got scared from a sound downstairs and explained that Abby was persecuted for her unique appearance. The door is unique for being out of chronological order and in the Middle Ages. Back in the story, Abby and Michael are in a love story despite her being 12 and him being disinterested. Yeah, I don't know how exactly that one's gonna go, but we'll find out. She wants to repay him somehow for letting her live there with the rule to not go to his room. She cleaned the library and the books fell on her. Michael let her take comfort in the books despite not knowing how to read, and she continued to flirt with him and complimented his name. Abby revealed her name to be Giselle, which, who knows if we'll use it. We've been calling her Abby for this many hours now. It's really hard to remember that it's now Giselle. And Michael says his curse will kill her, but she sticks by him. So, let's go ahead and kick off. Let's see. Yes. It really has been a while. Wow. Okay. I mean, if you'd like, I can pronounce it as Michel rather than Michael. I'm happy to do so, whichever one you prefer. It had been about a week since the white-haired girl had taken up residence in the mansion. So we're still going to call her the white-haired girl, despite the fact that we now know her name, but whatever. Staying in that house deprived of light was, I imagine, a very claustrophobic experience. To anyone blessed enough to have sunlight as part of their everyday lives, it would have been unbearable. But for her, the mansion, with its prison walls and lack of either illumination or recreation, was the one place she could find respite. She and Michael continued to be distant, however. He spent most of his time in his chambers, which he had explicitly told the white haired girl to stay out of, leaving her unable to close that gap. Nonetheless, on the occasions they did cross paths in the library, their eyes would meet, if but briefly. It was never for more than a few seconds. Whenever she saw him, she made a point of giving him a little smile. He never said anything, but still, when she had first arrived, he would have not even met her gaze. He seemed to be taking more and more notice of her. She's 12, sir, please. One day, the white haired girl stood in the cellar, a frown on her face. Well, this is troubling. I can't go down to the village, but if we don't do something soon. The cellar was where their food was stored, an assortment of non perishables and dried foods, smoked meats, and cheeses. Her daily meals were taken from the supplies there. However, the stockpile was beginning to grow quite small. Yeah, we'll keep calling her Abby until the text actually starts calling her the white haired girl. Yeah, because otherwise, like, I don't know why they're not calling her Giselle, since we know her name now. So that's a good point. We'll just keep calling her Abby. And then we'll find out that Giselle wasn't actually her real name or something, and we'll feel very smart. Were she not on the run, could have gone to the village to procure more. Or perhaps, were she a little tougher, she could have captured a wild animal for its meat. She's 12. I mean, I guess 12-year-olds do hunt, but I don't know that 12-year-olds were hunting back in the times when, like, there weren't guns. I don't know. I don't know anything about hunting before anyone calls me out for that. Um, but, Master, you know, a young, delicate thing like her was hardly up to the task of hunting for food. Yeah, plot twist, her real name is Michelle. How does he normally get his supplies, I wonder? From there, other questions about Michael started rising in her mind. No matter how lifeless he seemed, surely he still had to eat, right? The white haired girl nodded, then made her way out of the cellar, intending to head for his bedchamber. We about to have a Beauty and the Beast kind of thing where she's gonna try to go in his bedchamber and then he's gonna freak? Uh, but on her way there, she spotted him standing by the entrance, staring motionless at the door lit by a single candle. He appeared to be waiting for something. Um, may I ask you a question? Go on. I was just down in the cellar, and I noticed we were running low on food. Do you normally go down to the village to restock? I haven't been outside in 10 years. Holy shit, man. How much did you buy last time on your last grocery trip? Interesting. So Fata Morgana isn't a place, it's the name of a mirage phenomenon. Hmm. I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense. If you kind of like think about what we're seeing. So Fata Morgana means Morgan the Fairy from Arthurian legend in Italian. And we have had some Italian, so. Then how do you. What if I told you I don't eat? What? That I am not of this world, and as such I have no need of sustenance. What would you think of that? Um, that sounds very, um, economical? That's the wildest thing to say. Of all the things we're worried about with this man not eating or not being of his world, of this world, you know what? He saves a lot of money that way. If you can survive without having to eat, that's one less thing to worry about. If it were possible, I'd like to have that ability too. It would seem trying to frighten you is a waste of time. Uh, was I supposed to be afraid? Never mind. It doesn't matter. You asked about the food in the cellar. It's getting to be about that time. Hmm? Wait, and you will find out.
What do you...
It's here.
Oh,
If you want to know where my supplies come from, open the door.
but, um, I... I'm in hiding.
There's no one at the door anymore. The knock is nothing more than a signal.
A signal?
The white haired girl turned towards Michael to press him for more information, but he averted his gaze. Find the answer yourself, he seemed to be saying. She took several moments to gather her will, then marched over to the door. That was loud.
So bright.
The sunlight, which she had not seen in some time, was so bright it seemed to burn her eyes. Although the sun itself had not gotten any brighter, she had simply spent so much time in the dark her eyes were no longer accustomed to that much light. The color of her eyes made them quite sensitive to light already, so when she stepped outside, her whole world went bone white. The white haired girl stood motionless for 10, perhaps even 15 seconds, and when her eyes had finally adjusted to the light,
Huh? What's this?
she noticed a crate on the ground at her feet. She turned her head back to ask Michael about the box, but the mansion was so dark it appeared to be wholly severed from the outside world. Yet the light, it burns. We're just like becoming vampires, is what I'm hearing. From where she stood, she was unable to distinguish Michael from the shadows. A pang of nervousness struck her. She wanted to return to that darkness as quickly as possible. The white haired girl had come to yearn for that world without light more than the one with. The crate was fairly hefty. The slightly built girl had considerable difficulty bringing it into the house. But eventually, she did manage to drag it through the front door. And then, everything went dark once more, except for the faint flicker of candlelight floating in the air. You can leave it there. I'll take care of the rest.
Um, what's...
Without a word, Michael approached her and the box, withdrawing a knife that he had evidently kept hidden somewhere on his person. With it, he cut through the rope that bound the box. Go on, open it up. At his insistence, she placed her hand upon the lid. She had no idea what lay inside this unexpected delivery. Whoever had brought it was already long gone. Staring at the strange box, she was racked with nervousness. However,
Um,
what she found when she pushed aside the lid was completely ordinary food. Yeah, I hope it's a puppy. Is something amusing?
it was just rather anticlimactic. Here I was, worried about what might be inside.
We were just talking about the supplies in the cellar.
So, we were. It completely slipped my mind. This should last us for some time. It's all preserved, just like what's in the cellar. But I don't understand. Who would deliver all of this to you?
There should be a book in there as well.
What? Oh, there it is. In the library, he said that his family sends him one book a month. Does that mean this box came from them?
The supplies in the cellar.
If so, then why did the person who delivered this leave without speaking to him? What happened between him and his family? Is he here because they want him here? Or because he chose to be here?
Take the book to the library, please. I will bring the rest of the supplies to the cellar.
But it's a big box. I'm sure you could use some help carrying it.
That won't be necessary. Take the book and go.
But,
Fine, then stay here. I'll take care of everything.
wait! Hold on, please! Um,
What is it?
you don't have to answer this if you don't want to. And, I'm not trying to pry, but I can't help but be curious.
Say what you have to say, please.
I was wondering if you could tell me why you live here. in this mansion. Why did whoever delivered this box leave before you even opened the door? Could you perhaps be imprisoned here? Um,
I told you this the very first day. I am cursed. It's only natural for a cursed man to live in a cursed house.
yes, but that's such a vague answer. I don't understand why you're in the situation you are. I don't know how you feel about it. There's so much I don't know. And I'm not even sure if your curse actually exists.
Yeah. Why do I live here? Because UPS doesn't pay him enough to do his job that well. I see. That is a perfectly reasonable doubt from your point of view. Having been branded a witch because of your appearance, it would make sense that you would think my curse might be fabricated, or perhaps a metaphor for something else. All right then, come with me.
What?
I'll show you my curse.
As he turned on his heels, the white haired girl caught a glimpse of what appeared to be a smirk on his face, like the whole thing was some kind of sick joke. That smile carved into his mask was far colder than any look of annoyance or rejection. But despite the twinge of nervousness, she still followed after Michael. As much as he might have stood out in a crowd with such height and long hair, his presence was almost entirely eroded away by the darkness. She felt that he could simply fade away into nothingness at any moment.
Many things are buried here:
Huh?
mice, insects, wild cats and dogs. Have you ever thought it strange how little life there seemed to be around this mansion?
You're right. I haven't seen a single creature since I arrived. The only sound you can hear is the wind blowing. Now that you mention it, it did seem peculiar.
They were all killed by me. Or rather, they lost their lives because of me. You have your answer now. Okay, that wasn't much of an answer. I don't know what we were supposed to take from that. Yeah, no life means no bugs to bother me. Look, as someone who lives in Florida, I would take no bugs.
A butterfly fluttered its way into the ruined garden, dancing up and down through the air. Michael held out a finger before himself, and the butterfly, mistaking it for a branch, drifted down upon it to rest its wings. Had the scene stopped there, it would have been a picturesque moment.
All that comes into contact with me loses its life. My skin, the breath I exhale, my flesh and blood is poison to all life.
But the butterfly's movements began to slow. It spread its wings in one last futile attempt to fight gravity, and then, without warning, it shriveled up into a dry husk. It's it's dead, all dried up and lifeless, like it's been dead for days. It's like his finger drained all the life out of it. Is this is this his curse? Is that even possible? But I saw it with my own eyes. If this is his curse, though, it explains much.
There are more than just insect and animal corpses buried here, too. Servants who came to visit me long ago are here.
Are here, beneath the ground, under our very feet.
That's why the servant leaves before I open the door. Should he touch me, should he get near me, his very life is in danger. No one is interested enough in seeing me to take that risk. No one will have anything to do with me. Nary a soul even wishes to see my face. Now you understand what I meant when I said I would eventually kill you.
So that's why you have never once touched me.
I mean, also, dude, he has no reason to touch you. Like, yeah, all that comes into contact with me loses life, but so does everything that comes into contact with dihydrogen monoxide, and we don't ban that.
When I knocked the books down in the library, you didn't offer your hand to help me up. And only one of us ever made contact with the box at the entrance at a time. When I offered to help you carry it, you refused, because you didn't want your finger to accidentally brush against mine.
My actions were not out of concern for you. I simply dislike people. Others' interests mean nothing to me. What an odd face you're making. Do you not believe my curse is real? Yeah, what if he just wears gloves? I mean, I assume he said that the servants won't even get near. So maybe like he gets an aura around him. I don't know.
No, I do. It's certainly irrational, inexplicable, unbelievable. But you've shown me more than enough evidence. And I don't believe you're lying to me right now either.
In which case, you now understand how dangerous it is to be near me. You said that if you left, you would be killed. But it's been some time since then. If you're careful to cover your tracks, you could make your escape. You do not belong here.
He was telling the truth about you being cursed. What a cruel burden to have to bear. I can't imagine just how much he's given up on, how many lives he's inadvertently taken, and how he must have felt every time it happened. How much pain that loneliness must have given him, how much despair he must carry in his heart, how much sorrow must be weighing down on him. So, no, I will not leave. I will stay here with you.
Leave this place.
No, I will not.
Why? Why do you insist upon remaining in this house after learning what I can do? You have no reason to stay.
Tell me then, why do you try to drive me out? If you don't care for others, as you say, if you're not concerned about anyone else, then what does it matter what I do? What does it matter if I die to your curse? You're a very kind-hearted man. You've been watching out for me since the day I arrived, doing whatever you can to not inadvertently kill me, to not afflict me with your curse.
No.
Here's what I think. No one capable of showing genuine care for others can be honestly, truly dislike all people. They can't possibly be indifferent.
No, I.
That day we met before the stained glass window, you heard me out. You listened to my plight. You didn't try to chase me out. That day I thought you to be a good person, and I still believe that.
I simply. I simply assumed you would leave on your own when it was safe. I never thought you would be so foolish as to want to stay in a house like this with a man like me.
How does that make me foolish?
Do you not value your life? Are you not afraid of death? Do you not find me unpleasant?
The thing I fear most is loneliness. You're probably right that by now I could safely sneak away, get myself somewhere far from here. But even if I did, I would inevitably find myself in the same situation. The only way I can avoid that fate is to stay away from everyone, to live in solitude with no one to talk to. I know you understand how that feels. It terrifies me. I'm afraid of having to spend day after day with no one to talk to, no one to share my experiences, my thoughts, my feelings with. If that's what awaits me out there, then I want to live with you. I want you to be an essential part of my life.
Impossible.
Please, don't chase me out.
Yeah, what matters to me is having your corpse around is going to stink up the house and be really heavy to clean up. I mean, like, just kind of thinking about it, from his point of view, like, I wouldn't want her to stay either. Because, like, even take it that she survives a decent amount of time, like, he's going to get attached, and then he's inevitably going to end up killing her and then be alone again. And that'll almost be worse, I think. So, you are a cruel girl. Never again will I allow myself to get close to someone, only to watch them die. Never again. My mother was the first to die. It happened shortly after my birth. Next was my wet nurse. Two deaths could be considered a coincidence, but as the number rose, it became clear that I was cursed, and I was forbidden from making contact with anyone, even at home. Regardless, being in the same house, accidents will happen. Numerous people lost their lives. Attendants unfamiliar with me, or those who simply brushed up against me by mistake. I couldn't take it any longer.
So you chose to move here, to this remote mansion, to keep yourself away from your family. You weren't imprisoned here. You elected to live alone, so you wouldn't hurt anyone.
For better or for worse, I was born into a noble house. So rather than abandon me, they've provided me the means to live out of sight.
I will be very careful. I will do everything I can to ensure no accidents occur, to keep you from being alone again. I will not for any reason touch you. You have my promise. Your curse takes the life of anything you touch. I've been here for a while, and death has not befallen me yet. As long as I do not touch you, there shouldn't be a problem. Also, um, and I apologize if this is simply me reading too much into things, but I feel like we're two of a kind. I fear being utterly alone more than anything, and I think you understand just how scary that is.
Yeah, what Michael needs is one of those TV restraining orders that get enforced to the exact distance. Like, perfect. He just needs one of those hamster balls, actually. Like, then no one can get close to him. Poke some holes in it, like, we're good.
So,
Why are you so stubbornly insistent on it being me? I'm sure there's someone else out there. Someone you're meant to be with. You may not have found them yet, but I believe someone like you eventually will. Because unlike me, you still have the vigor to press forward.
it has to be you. I'm certain of it.
Why?
Because, um, well, I,
You can't tell me?
no, I can. Just, I, please don't get upset with me.
Hmm?
I think
Oh, girl, don't do it. Don't do it.
I might really, really love you.
Oh, honey. I'm sure that's going to go over super well. His was a power that evoked images of witches or demons, the unclean and the impure. A mere touch was all it took for him to strip man and beast alike of its life. God has quite a cruel streak to bestow such a power upon a beautiful young man. And a strange power it was indeed, like something out of a fairy tale. Like something confined to words upon the page, it seemed otherworldly, unbelievable. Nonetheless, as he had demonstrated to the white-haired girl, his peculiar powers were indeed real. That said, the world has its fair share of oddities. It just so happens that those curiosities tend to remain hidden away, known only to a few. There we go. They just have to practice social distancing. Although you have laid eyes upon a number of unusual phenomena yourself, Master. The doors to the past through which we have passed, this very mansion, and as a matter of fact, the two of us. Now, as you just saw, the white haired girl found herself enraptured with this man and his accursed power. How do you think Michael acted in response to her proclamation? He had spent so long refusing to interact with others, no, unable to interact with them. As such, he was unsure how to respond. After standing there expressionless for a few moments, he muttered, "I'll consider it." And with that, he returned to his chambers. While he was not someone who wore his heart upon his sleeve, I personally do not believe he was completely devoid of emotions. He had simply forgotten how to express them in his extended solitude. So I think he was, in that moment, in a state of complete panic. She had, after all, just assaulted him with a stream of incomprehensible declarations that, knowing the truth, she still wished to remain in the mansion, and that, knowing the truth, she loved him. The love she had declared for Michael was not a fleeting puppy love. There was genuine tenderness and warmth to her words. But he had gone through his life shunned, feared, pushed away. To him, that was normal. He had never given anyone reason to have any fondness for him, so he found himself utterly unsure how to take the affection she was showing. Of course, he was not the only one rattled by the whole affair. Uh, oh, dear. Several days had passed since Michael had asked for time to think. He had still yet to show himself again. This is all my fault. The white-haired girl paced anxiously through the halls on the off chance she might run into him. As per his request, though, she kept her distance from his chambers. Nevertheless, she was beginning to worry about the fact that he had secluded himself away for so long, so she worked up her courage and made her way to his room.
What if he doesn't want to see me ever again?
Yeah. Oh gosh, a 12-year-old is risking death to simp for me. Go away. Like, just kind of imagine, like, if you were a 12-year-old and the hot Ike man that you have been kind of fangirling over, um, is like in front of you. You declare your love, and then they just go, "Okay, bye," for like days. Totally normal.
I didn't consider I might be overstepping my bounds before opening my mouth.
Every step she took was slow and laborious. Her mind raced with worry and doubt.
I should at least tell him I'm sorry.
Rather than out of a desire to know how he felt, she was compelled by guilt and a desire to apologize. After walking for some time, she arrived at a door sitting in an utterly unlit hallway. She drew in a breath of musty air, then let it out, repeating the process several times. Next, she reached her hand up to knock on the door, then pulled it back, also doing this a number of times. Oh, how adorable she was. I wanted nothing more than to give her a little nudge. After all, she was too sweet a girl for her worries to be anything but misplaced. Wait a second. Where is Hot Maid in this story? Like, there's no one else here. That's the whole point. Are we actually going with the idea that she is the representation of the house, maybe?
I just can't find the courage. Maybe I should come back another day. But what's the point of waiting? I need to apologize and get the weight off his back now.
She gathered her courage once more, this time determined she would do it. The white-haired girl moved her small fist towards the door, which then swung open.
I'm sorry.
Please, you must announce your presence. I almost walked right into you. Are you in that much of a hurry for a mishap?
I'm sorry.
And I believe I told you to stay away from my chambers.
You did, so I spent a long time debating whether I would, but I decided I really wanted to tell you this.
Oh, well, actually,
I'm truly sorry.
what?
The other day, I could barely manage to get the words in my head all the way to my mouth. There was no room in my mind for anything else. I shoved my own thoughts and feelings into your face, not considering that that might not be what you wanted. Just running nonstop, not thinking at all. I was terribly disrespectful to you, completely selfish. You're a kind-hearted man. I truly believe that. But you were only being courteous because you're a nice man. I'm sure you have little interest in the affections of a queer little girl. So, I would love it if I could stay here. It would be a wonderful blessing. But if you really don't want me here, if my feelings are imposing upon you, then I apologize. I'm sorry, and I'll take my leave of this house. Um, I'm sorry.
Don't be. Um, my mind went blank for a moment.
What?
I find it difficult to comprehend you. The other day you were firm in your intentions to stay, and now you say you'll leave without a struggle.
You you holed up in your room for so long that I thought, um, you didn't want me around. To be honest, I want to stay here. I do.
I think you should do whatever pleases you.
Huh?
You can stay, or you can leave. I will not pressure you to do one or the other.
So, I'm not imposing?
To tell you the truth, I had to think about that for some time. However, I have now come to something of a solution. Since you're here, come into my room.
What? But I thought I wasn't allowed to.
To prevent what almost happened a few moments ago, so we don't accidentally run into each other. She going to have to wear a bell? Like, oh, interesting. This takes place before William Shakespeare invented the word bedroom. That's why he still calls it a chamber.
Sorry.
You're forgiven. Now come in.
Uh, okay. Is this a necklace?
If that's what it looks like to you, then I suppose that means I succeeded. Pick it up.
Uh, it has
Oh my god, I was joking about the bell. This man is going to have her walking around with a bell like a cat.
it has a little bell. It's adorable.
Please make an effort to wear that while you're in the house. Because it's so dark, there will always exist the risk that we might accidentally bump into one another. So I tried to come up with a way to reduce that risk.
Does that mean you didn't leave your room because you were working on this?
That's right. What other reason would I have?
Um,
Yeah, hot maid, fetch a giant hamster ball. But not for me.
I think most people would assume it was because they had put you in a bad mood, or that you didn't want to see them.
I have little sense of how most people see the world.
S- Sorry. I, um, I appreciate it though. I'm really glad to know that you put so much thought into a life together with me.
It would be difficult not to, after the other day.
I'm so happy right now. I can't think of any better word to describe it. I couldn't be happier.
You're being dramatic. To tell you the truth, I feel a little bad about it.
Why?
It seems rather impertinent to affix a bell to someone. Yeah, it does. You're not livestock. You're a person.
That's why you turned it into a necklace? Thank you very much. I'll keep it on me at all times. I really, truly appreciate it, Lord Michael.
Don't call me Lord, please.
All right then. Um, I'll just call you Michael. And will you please call me Giselle?
The windows.
What?
If we could open the windows. Never mind. I was just thinking you wouldn't need the bell at all if we could get some light in here.
Hmm? They can't be opened?
They're rusted shut. All the windows have been shuttered for as long as I've been here.
I assumed you had boarded them all up.
That was done long before I ever arrived. After so many years here, though, I hardly consider it an inconvenience anymore. It also serves to repel wanderers.
Oh, really? Hmm.
Is there something odd about that?
No, no. It's just I've realized I had the wrong impression about a number of things. As I learn more, I see things in a different light. See you in a different light. And I'm sure there's still plenty more for me to learn.
Of all the people I've ever met, you are perhaps the most difficult to predict. I don't think he's actually met that many people, believe it or not. Or maybe he has, and that's why he's so worried about all of this because he's just literally committed mass murder on accident. I don't know, man. Not only do you have no aversion to the darkness, you.
The dark has always been a close friend of mine. Which isn't to say I dislike the sun. Its light can simply be a bit too strong for me. I'm like some kind of unholy monster that can't be exposed to sunlight.
You are anything but unholy. My name would suit you much better than me. Okay, we were joking about Michelle, but. Oh? That day when I first saw Giselle. I don't know what this sound effect is, and I don't like it. I was wary of her, apprehensive. I didn't want her anywhere near me. But as my doubts about her faded, I began feeling something very different, as though the lump in my heart had been melted away. I began to yearn for her to be at my side, knowing full well it couldn't possibly last. I'm very distracted by the silhouette. Like, it's so clever to have that silhouette the way that it is. It's so cool. Anyways, knowing full well how foolish it was, I found myself captivated by her. I found myself wishing to have her stay with me. Okay, I don't like this. What the hell was that? Normal effects happening in 1099. The cicada molting.
And that marked the true beginning of their quiet days together in the dark mansion. They acknowledged and accepted each other's presence, no longer isolating themselves, but actively, regularly conversing. As mundane as it might seem, it was something they'd been unable to attain until then. Nevertheless, they were still somewhat fumbling around in the dark with one another, drawing closer and pushing away again. Michael, in his own ungraceful way, was beginning to open himself up to the things she said, and the white-haired girl was beginning to smile with greater frequency. They had taken to dining together, and her wish of learning to read was being granted. He taught her in the feeble light of a candle placed upon the table, the two sitting across from one another. Though Michael seemed to be well educated, he had not been instructed in the art of teaching, so he found the process quite grueling. But to the white-haired girl, the longer it took, the better. Her primary objective was, after all, to spend time with him. The days passed, and eventually, she reached the point where her comprehension was adequate enough without assistance. Her next request, then, was for them to read through a book together. Have you read every book in the library?
No, I stopped looking at them after a while. Most everything I'm sent is dull, unformative dreck. The Diary of a Lord, foolish make-believe tales.
You're not fond of fiction, I take it?
What value is there in the lies and fantasies of another?
Stories can be invigorating. Tales of adventure can take you places you could never go. Legends of heroes, folklore, stories of otherworldly phenomena. They can be terrifying and they can be exhilarating. They may not be real, but they give you a little glimpse into the author's heart. Let you feel like you're seeing the same thing they saw.
You are a very empathetic girl. Fiction inspires nothing of the sort in me. However,
Hmm?
perhaps long ago, it may have been able to, though I can no longer remember what it feels like.
I'm sure it'll come back to you. You're not an empty man.
This story apparently takes place the exact year before Middle English fully phases out the Old English language. So we thank God that they didn't write this in Old English, as someone who's had to read it and Middle English. Um,
Sorry, I'm making you uncomfortable again. Um, uh, how about we read this book today?
it appears to be a collection of legends.
You haven't read this one yet, then? That's good to hear. It'll be more enjoyable if it's a new experience for the both of us. It looks like it's a record of local legends.
The book is divided into several sections, though it appears to be mostly superstitions.
I am curious what kind of stories this area has.
The two of them were looking down at a simple, undecorated volume. As the white haired girl had said, it seemed to be a collection of local legends passed down generation to generation. They sat across from one another at the table, her turning the pages and Michael simply watching so as not to brush against her. Eventually, her eyes were drawn to a particular word on one of the pages, bringing her hands to a stop.
The witch.
That chapter detailed the story of a witch, or more precisely, said witch's curse. The story went something like this. There once was a witch, skilled in the dark arts. She lived a meager but peaceful life alongside the other villagers. But then a long, long drought struck the village, with the people blamed on the witch. The witch was sentenced to death, and as the fire blazed around her, smoke rose high into the air. The smoke soon became rain clouds, blessing the village with an end to the drought. The crops were revitalized, and the villagers fancied themselves heroes. However, the rain also brought madness upon the people. Though the earth below them was lush and fertile, the villagers were losing their minds. And they eventually began to take each other's lives. Oh my god, it's Raging Loop all over again. The witch still lived on in the form of a curse. Well, I mean, fiction replicates reality. I don't remember what the actual saying is, but, you know. Many fell cursed, many fell victim to the witch's curse. Though it did not only take, it also fulfilled people's desires. The villagers had gone mad, but their wish for freedom from the drought had been granted. Thus, the legend has been passed down as follows. Art imitates life. There we go. The witch will grant your wish in exchange for a great sacrifice. As smoke in the sky, she watches down upon us from above. To reach the witch, climb for the heavens, but know that road is a road to destruction.
People still believe the witch's legend even now, I suppose. And that's why I.
Face accusations of being a witch. This is not an area very welcoming to outsiders, especially one who stands out as much as you. What brought you to this region in the first place?
Mine is a story I'm sure you've heard before. I was cast out of my house. I come from a very poor family. We could barely even afford to keep everyone fed. Being as weak as I am, it was only natural that I would be the first to go.
I see.
What I don't understand, though, is why the witch is said to grant people's wishes. That is to say, she had reason enough to hold a grudge, but not to give people things they asked for.
All we have to go on is a few pages. There's no saying what might have been changed or added over time, and it's almost certain the entire legend isn't written here. That said, if we're to accept everything as written, you can infer what the witch's reason might have been.
And that is.
If you truly want it that much, you can have it. But I'll make certain your suffering outweighs it. Despair that comes after a moment of happiness is far more agonizing than despair alone. I presume that's why the witch decided to grant people's wishes.
That is one way to look at it. Um, may I ask you something?
Go on.
When I first arrived here, you told me that a cursed witch used to live in this mansion. After reading this legend, I'm now finding it hard to believe you made that up simply to scare me away.
I appropriated the tale, nothing more. It is said the witch was born in this house.
What?
Quite the place my family found for me. But it was a clever decision putting me here, I think. Not many people are likely to come near a house with such a pedigree.
But no, never mind. That makes sense. I suspect I know what she was going to say then. If the witch is said to grant wishes, then wouldn't that also attract people who so desperately want something they do not care what price they must pay? And perhaps she was correct. Perhaps there had been those who had come to the mansion chasing after the legend. And perhaps they had encountered Michael, touched him, and lost their lives. On that day in the garden, he had said, "Many things are buried here." Perhaps that included such visitors. I wonder if that story might be more than mere superstition. If if the witch of legend really did exist, what would you do? Hmm, it might be nice to talk to her, maybe. That's all? Really? I feel a little bad for her, though. The only people who ever visit her are there to ask for something, after all. I can only imagine just how lonely that must be. I swear, I cannot comprehend the way your mind works. Sorry. Although, if we assume the legend is true, I have an idea what climb for the heavens might mean. Oh, the mansion has an observation tower. Or, I suppose, what used to be an observation tower. At any rate, it's quite a tall structure. This is the house where the witch was supposedly born. A tower reaching for the heavens seems like the perfect place to find her, if she really is here. Oh, yeah. I remember seeing a rather tall structure as I first approached the mansion. Would you like to see it? Of course. Please lead the way. The two of them left the library and made their way to the room with the stained glass window. At the far end of that room were the stairs to the observation tower. The tale of the witch had piqued the white haired girl's interest, inspiring her to put herself forward to satisfy that curiosity. She had, after all, been accused of being a witch herself, so she undoubtedly felt an affinity to the legend. What a sweet girl she was. With Michael in the lead, the two climbed a long, long spiral staircase. There were many more stairs than the white haired girl had anticipated, and she soon found herself short of breath. Rectangular windows were carved out of the stone in regular intervals. Peering through one of them, she could see a village in the distance. A pleasantly cool, high altitude breeze brushed across her face. After much climbing, they finally arrived at the top, where a door made of partially rotted wood stood. Michael pulled open the door, revealing a small room with no windows or doors in sight. This is the top of the tower? I don't know. Didn't, like, in the story with the beast, didn't they use this graphic to also describe where a witch was being held? Something like that? I vaguely remember this. It was a while ago, but this is the top of the tower? Despite it being called an observation tower, you could hardly observe anything from there. Her face contorted in confusion, the white haired girl threw her gaze about the room. Glancing up, she saw only a darkened ceiling, and slightly below it, a single small window through which shone a little ray of light. The beam cleaved through the darkness like the sharpened blade of a beautiful sword. The darkness draped over the rest of the room only served to make more impressive that solitary ray of light. That's fair. Yeah, I want to say that we've I know we've seen this one before. I just don't remember whether it was in the context of the witch. We have seen them reuse other graphics before, so this could just be a cost saving measure. Which, like, fair. It had a magical fairy tale quality to it. As if being pulled in by it, she drew towards the light. I suspect there was once a large window in this room. If you look closely, you can see seams in the stone of the wall. The color of the stone differs slightly on either side of the seams. I presume something caused them to seal off the window after it was built. Though I don't know what that something might be.
When Michael's eyes fell upon the white haired girl wrapped in that beam of light, he sputtered to a stop. The man who never flinched at anything, who had long since distanced himself from such stirrings of the heart, was utterly bewitched. He had never seen her illuminated so vividly before, and he was having a great deal of trouble finding the words to describe her striking beauty. She is 12, my dude. I get that the times were different, but she was still 12. For someone who had been chased out of her home and accused of being a witch, the white-haired girl looked less like a practitioner of the dark arts and more like one of the hosts of heaven. Michael undoubtedly felt the same way, for his gaze was affixed firmly upon her. Aw, she's so cute.
Dazzling, isn't it? Like a staircase leading to heaven.
Y- yes, perhaps so.
Is something the matter?
No, I'm fine.
You know, it feels like there's something odd in the air here. It feels like someone actually might be listening.
If if the witch were to speak to you, what would you say to her?
I would ask her to tell me her true feelings, to tell me what kind of person she was, and what pain she had to endure. I just want to know how she felt, this woman people branded a witch.
The legend was written from a neutral perspective. It's possible she was a fearsome witch. It's also possible that she wasn't.
I get the feeling she was just persecuted, like me. Like me and you.
I, unlike you, I truly am impure. Disagree all you want, but my touch kills. I'm a strange, incomprehensible, irrational creature. Or maybe I'm not even a living being. And that's why when I touch something that is, I bring them death. There's some weird parallels here between this story and the Beast's story as well.
If only I actually were a witch. If only I actually had some kind of extraordinary power, regardless of whether it came from God or the devil, then I would be able to grant people's wishes.
My wish need not be granted.
But it's what I want too. I wish to be able to touch you. I would be perfectly content with nothing changing, with us never being able to touch one another. I would be more than happy with that. But I'm allowed to dream, aren't I? It doesn't have to be in this life. I pray the day will come that we can get closer, even if it has to happen in another life.
Happiness is very much a stranger to me. But am I allowed to dream too?
You are.
I will never touch you. I swear it. But I would like to dream about it. I would like I would like to imagine placing my hand upon your cheek.
You can. Reach your hand out for me. I will imagine it too. I'm imagining your fingers running through my hair, brushing up against my skin. I can feel your warmth.
There was a wall between them, a wall they could not cross. For if they did, it would mean the white-haired girl's death. No matter how much they yearned for it, they could not touch one another. So they did so within the confines of their imagination, envisioning it in as much detail as they could manage. It was sad but sweet, a moment of pristine, untainted beauty. The two of them emanated serenity, as fitting as the word cursed might have been to the mansion as a whole. At the top of the observation tower, a pure bond was being shared. A fleeting moment between a young man with a cursed touch and a kind-hearted yet beautiful girl. The dream did not last long, no,
for God is quite cruel. They simply wanted to be together, that was all. Their wish was hardly unreasonable, only a quiet, peaceful life together. But misfortune was creeping ever nearer, its footsteps growing more and more pronounced.
Yeah, maybe the other stories were manifestations of Abby's dream, or maybe, like, there is something to this curse. And that wish got granted. And that's why it's gone wrong every single time. I don't know.
Hmm? Is someone at the door? The flow of time was hazy within the mansion's walls. They had little way of telling whether it was night or day, preventing them from knowing exactly how much time had passed. The white haired girl had made a habit of climbing the observation tower every so often to see whether the sun was up, which allowed her to approximate the time of day. Consequently, when she heard the knock on the door, she was not aware just how deep the night was outside, that forest and beast alike lay quietly at rest. Oh, right, the stores in the cellar are almost exhausted. It must be this month's delivery.
Not thinking it was worth bothering Michael over, she made her way out of her chambers and headed for the entrance. Of course, I've got hiccups now. I apologize.
There had only been a single knock, leading her to conclude that, as before, the servant had simply left the box outside the door. So without a second thought, she opened the door. Oh no! And there she saw a strange, vagrant man standing in the moonlight. His clothes were tattered, his bearded face bony and emaciated. Huh? She gasped, shrinking back several paces. The heavy door began to swing shut, but the man forced it open, glaring down at her with unfocused eyes and mumbling, "Are ye the witch that'll grant people's wishes?" It was in that moment that the white-haired girl realized she had been careless. The man had sought out the mansion because he believed the legend of the witch. And he did not seem particularly right of mind either. Perhaps a result of wandering around the forest for several days. Or perhaps it was because he was so beaten down that he thought to ask for a witch's help. In a word, he seemed mad. Uh, no, there's no witch here.
Sure there is. Don't you lie to me. I can hear the witch's voice. She led me to this house.
I promise you there isn't. Now please, be on your way. Have you any idea how long it took to find this place? How many days I've gone without food or water? And you're telling me to get lost? I don't know what you want from me. I'm happy to give you a little food, so please.
Is there really no witch?
There's no witch here. It's nothing but a legend. If she does exist, she doesn't live here.
I see. Then that means you're just an ordinary person.
Huh?
Just a person. Just a girl. So there ain't a thing you can do. Oh, honey.
No, get away from me. What are you doing?
Why waste time waiting for you to get me a little grub when I could just take it all? I'm starving here. I'm so hungry I could eat human. Oh. This took a weird turn. I thought we were going somewhere else.
You're about to commit a grievous sin. Are you not ashamed to act in defiance of God?
God? If I believed in God, would I come begging to a witch? I don't fear him, and I sure as hell don't fear people. Who's gonna show up at a house in the middle of nowhere? Who's gonna call me out? Who's gonna stop me? No one. That's who. No one's gonna stop me, and no one's gonna offer me salvation. There's a thought. You're a woman, so before I kill you, this is where I thought we were going with this, not cannibalism there for a minute. What are you doing? What? There are other people here? The white-haired girl lay pinned on the floor beneath the yelling bandit, pleading for help with her ruby eyes. As soon as Michael grasped the situation, he tossed his candlestick aside and leapt for the man. Huh. The candlestick gave a sharp clang when it hit the floor. The impact extinguished the flame, bringing the mansion to near-perfect darkness. Something glinted in the bandit's hand, and then, without hesitation, he thrust it at Michael. Oh, no, Michael!
Michael!
How stupid must you be to come at me unarmed? In his hand, the man held a knife, its tip dripping with Michael's blood. Spilled from the gash in his arm, the flow growing heavier with each passing moment. You're the only other person here by the looks of it, eh? Perfect! I'll take you both out. You. What? You don't appear to know whose house you tried to break into. What are you on about? Regret your ignorance to your very last breath. You're messed up in the head, you madman. Hey, stay the hell back. Take one more step and. I inherited the witch's curse. Let, let go. Michael clutched the man's face in one hand. The man raised his knife to strike back, but. What? What's happening? The strength drained from his fingers, the knife falling to the floor. The man writhed in Michael's grip. Uh, me face! My face! I can't breathe. Leave this place immediately. Though you won't get far afflicted with my curse. Helpless to fight back, nay, helpless to even consider fighting back, the bandit fled from the mansion in terror. In his wake, only the white-haired girl and a bleeding Michael remained. I just saw a man's life drain from him, his face withering away, sucked completely dry. There we go. There's actually a witch here. It's me. Turns Abby into the beast and Michael into a clock. We don't have a Lumiere though, so like we need something that will just shamelessly flirt with everything. Hot maid. I didn't doubt him, but dear God, that was quite disturbing for you, I'm sure. No, not at all. It's my fault anyway. If I hadn't been so careless. Oh, your arm! We need to get that wrapped up. Please, do not touch me. You mustn't touch me. The wound is hardly fatal. It's all my fault. I'm so sorry. No, a degree of the blame falls on me for saying nothing. Next time someone comes to the door, let me know. I'm sorry. Please, you don't need to apologize. I, um, well, yes? For once, I'm actually proud of myself. Proud that I could use this terrible ability of mine to do something more than just take life. To protect someone I care about. uh, um, uh, so, like I said, please don't apologize. There we go. We, the protagonist, are Lumiere. Hot Maid is Fifi the Feathered Duster. Perfect. We have the cast. Let's do this all over now. All right. Thank you. Michael? Hmm? I'm glad you're here. I care about you too. Th- Thank you. Had the flame of Michael's candle not gone out when he threw it to the floor, he would have seen a heartfelt smile on the white-haired girl's face, and she would have seen a flush of red and an awkward smile on Michael's normally blank face. He also might have seen a little glimmer on her cheek, where a few drops of his blood had landed. Oh no! But alas, they had no light. Oh God. Is his blood cursed too? The collapse of their happiness came slowly, gradually. Perhaps it was because she had touched his blood instead of his skin. But the deterioration of the white-haired girl's health crept along at a relaxed pace. The life was not sucked out of her in the blink of an eye as it had been from the bandit. She merely grew progressively less and less healthy. Amidst her physical decay, she was bestowed with one blessing. Her beauty remained untouched. But as far as blessings went, surely there were others she could have been granted. Could God not have picked something a little better for her? By the time the two of them realized what was happening, it was already too late. The white-haired girl had grown so weak she could hardly leave her bed. Um, yes?
Oh, you are there.
I am.
Thank goodness. I can't see very well anymore.
How could this happen? I thought I had saved you, but no, I did the exact opposite.
Please don't talk that way. You you did save me that day.
But you're on the cusp of death now, and it's my fault. Because of this curse I bear. How? How could this happen? Why did this have to happen? What am I? Why was I given this body?
Michael, can I um ask you a favor?
Go ahead.
Stay with me, please. As much as you can until the very end.
I was going to do as much anyway.
Thank you. I'm happy, Michael. Happier than I have ever been. And I mean that. You didn't just save my life. You saved me. I've been saved. But only me. I wonder how he'll handle things when I'm gone. If only I hadn't opened the door that day, I wouldn't be leaving him all alone. And we could be happy together for even longer. Um,
Yes,
would you please hold my hand? I think it's probably safe now.
I will not. I cannot touch you. If I do, I might take what remains of your life, take your beauty away, and force you to die hideous. I really don't think she gives a shit about that. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but exactly. This is why you wash your hands and wear a mask, folks. I cannot touch you. Oh, oh, we're going back into this. Excuse me? Okay, we are going to end here. But also, chat has said this reminds me of that one Spider-Man storyline where Mary Jane got cancer because Peter's radioactive spider blood equates to radioactive semen. And what? I'm not a big comic buff. But wow, that's something. We'll just put it that way. Um, so we are going to end here for tonight. I think this is a good place to kind of to end. Um, it's a good place to end if you want me to have any energy through the rest of this stream. So yeah. Next stream is Sunday, 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific. Remember that Mana is performing at Polycon on Saturday. So I retweeted the information about the performance earlier today. So go check out our Twitter if you're interested in that kind of stuff. Otherwise, I think that's all I've got. Thank you for the good wishes. I'm okay. It's just it was a long day at work and um, just a little exhausted. But I did want to stream, so thank you for hanging out. I do appreciate it. Hope that I wasn't too unenergetic this time because I am really excited about this game. I just only have so much energy. Um, so yeah, thanks so much for hanging out, and we'll be back on Sunday. Thanks all.